And maybe along with that love that we need, we might also need some little backup dancers. Don't you think that would be great? Thank you, Mr. Love. So my talk today is called Wisdom for Today. And what we're really looking at here is the last 100 years of Ernest Holmes' teachings and how what he taught 100 years ago is really still relevant for us today. Do we believe that it's relevant today? I hope so, and I'm going to try to point out a few of those ways that it is. So, first I want to play a little game. I do like to play games. Who knows the very first book that Ernest Holmes wrote? Was not Science of Mind. Another guess? No, not This Thing Called You. Good guess, but no. The very first book that Ernest Holmes wrote in 1918 was Creative Mind. Creative Mind was the very first book. And I'm going to have a couple readings out of there. What was the last book that Ernest Holmes published before he died? Oh, we have some education to do, don't we? So the very last book that Ernest Holmes published was The Voice Celestial. This was a book of poetry that he and his brother Fenwick wrote together. And this was published in 1960, and that was the year that he died. So from 1918 to 1960, Ernest Holmes was publishing books, was writing books, was a very prolific author with all of his philosophy. And some of the things changed over the years, but the basic tenets were the same throughout that whole time. So let me read to you from Creative Mind, the first book that he wrote. He says, mind, all mind is right here. It is God's mind, God's creative power, God's creative life. We have as much of this power to use in our daily life as we can believe in and embody. Have you heard that concept before? I hope so, because I've been telling it to you. He goes on to say in this book, we should realize that we are dealing with a principle that is scientifically correct. So here, Ernest Holmes is talking about God. The concept of God as a principle, not a big personality in heaven, but this is really the principle. And this is the scientific part of Science of Mind. So he says, it will never fail us at any time, but is eternally present. We can approach the infinite mind with a depth of thought and understanding, knowing that it will respond, knowing that we are dealing with reality. Jesus, who saw this very clearly, laid down the whole law of life in a few simple words. It is done unto you as you believe. We do not have to do it. It is done unto us. It is done by the power that is all there is. We could believe that a material mountain would be removed. No, that's wrong. It says, could we believe that a material mountain could be moved? It would be done unto us. But unless we believe, there is no impulse for the creative power, and we do not receive. For life externalizes at the level of our thought. So what we think in our minds, what we believe to be true, is going to show up in our lives. That's what Ernest is saying here. It's done unto us as we believe. Ernest spent many years studying different writers, philosophers. He studied Emerson and Troward and Emma Curtis Hopkins. And those are three people that you'll be learning about if you take the Exploring Roots class. He also studied Emanuel Swedenborg. He studied Mary Baker Eddy, Phineas Quimby, plus all of the major world religions. And what Ernest was doing is he believed that not one person, not one group of people had all of the answers. But by looking at all of these different philosophies, what was the golden thread of truth that ran through all of them? What was everybody saying that was the same? And what he heard, what he read, what he saw was love. Love is all there is. God is love. God is good. It's done unto you as you believe. And so if we believe in love, then we're going to find more love in our lives. But Ernest also said, don't take what I say as the truth. You need to prove this for yourself. So here is the scientific part of science of mind. This is a philosophy that is repeatable. What we focus on is what we're going to get back. So some people, I know, have a little trouble with thinking about the law, and the law is what is repeatable for us. But the law, when you look in the back of the Science of Mind textbook, it says law means mind in action. So what is the action that our mind is taking? Is it saying, yes, I believe this? Or is it saying, who do you think you are? No way. Do you realize where you came from? People would laugh at you if you said that out loud. So what is our mind telling us? And what can our mind embrace? And the more it can embrace, the more full our life can be. We are the ones that limit ourselves. Another thing I love about Ernest Holmes' philosophy is that he was open at the top. What that means is Ernest knew that there was more science that was coming up. Science was discovering more things every day. And so he said, what I say now, we may need to change in the future because we'll have more information. So as we grow, as the world changes, this philosophy changes. But the golden threads of truth remain the same. The love that God, divine spirit, the universe is all love doesn't change. Throughout this month, I'm going to be giving you some different quotes from a book called Love and Law. This is the unpublished teachings of Ernest Holmes. And so what I find interesting about this book, these are things he never published. But this was private lessons that he had with different individuals. And so after his death, they found these notes. And they took the notes and put that into a book. It's also early lectures that he had not put into a book. So his early teachings, his early lectures, his private lessons with individuals, these are all things that come about through this book. And so I think that's very precious for us to be able to have. So love and law. We know that Ernest Holmes believed that God was love. The creative power of the universe was love. Ernest said, it's not love versus evil. I think some of us have probably heard that, haven't we? No. It's not love versus evil. There's one power. There's one presence. And that is God, the universe, divine intelligence, spirit, whatever name we want to give it. And it's love. It's life-giving. And so Ernest says, it's life-giving. That way it can never destroy itself. So if we look at ourselves and say, I'm not worthy, we're limiting our lives. We're just trying to destroy living a full life. And that's not God. That's not Spirit. Because Spirit wants us to succeed, wants us to live a full life, wants us to be excited about what's going on. Can we do that? It's all a mental practice. What are we saying to ourselves in our minds? Let me read to you from page 22 of this book. Ernest says, "You will find your word has the amount of power, the amount of intelligence you put into it. And it has creative power according to the amount of absolute conviction and the impulse of love which is behind it." So are we convinced of what we're saying? Or do we say something and then doubt ourselves? I've had those days where I've made my declaration and then doubted I was right because I listened to that little voice that said, "Who do you think you are? Oh, come on, people are going to laugh at you if that's what you say." So our life is going to manifest according to how much conviction we have about what we say and how clear we are with what we're doing. Some of you may be thinking at this point, well, Reverend Rick, that sounds really good. But you know what? Ernest began his teaching 100 years ago, and this is today. And today, look at our world and what a mess it's in. So what would Ernest have to say about that? Well, let me tell you, Ernest would be saying the same thing. Because 100 years ago, Ernest started teaching in 1916. First book was published in 1918. 1916, he started. World War I ended in November of 1918. So that means that he was starting his ministry, starting his philosophy during World War I. How many people do you think were in fear, thinking the world was in chaos, everything was coming to an end? Oh my God, we're all going to die. When World War I was going on. Another thing that was happening at the end of World War I was there was an influenza epidemic going through Europe and the Americas. So people are dying from influenza. This war is happening, and Ernest Holmes is saying, God is all there is, and God is good. There's only one power and one presence, and it wants good for you. Do you think this was an easy time for him to sell his philosophy to people? Kind of like today, isn't it? Sometimes we think, there's so much worry and unrest. It's hard for anybody to believe this. But when we believe, when we look and clear our minds with this, wow, what we can find and what we can manifest in our lives. So there's a few points that Ernest has always made, and I want to share these with you here. Yeah. That was what that look was for. Some spiritual concepts. First is that there is a law of mind, and we can use it. Law of mind, what did I tell you? Law means mind in action. So we're going to use the law of mind whether we intend to use it or not. We use it just as much when we worry, and we can be proficient at worrying, can't we? Than we can when we're being positive. My mother had her PhD in worry. And today she will say, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Why didn't you call me and tell me you were sick? I would worry for you." It's like, I don't need you to worry for me. So our minds, that law is mind in action. How are we going to use our minds? And what are we going to create in our lives by using our minds? Are we looking at the positive and looking for good, or are we looking at all the negative? It's really up to us. The second concept here is that the law is impersonal, and it will work for everyone. So you know what? One group of people does not have the corner on the market here for being able to manifest good, for being able to know God, because it's the same for everyone. The law of mind works for everybody. If you're the serial killer, or if you're the saint in the church that never goes outside the hallowed walls, what you think is going to be what you bring into your life. That is the law. It's a spiritual law, and it works for everybody, all of the time. The third concept is God is love. I think we've heard that. And God wants good for everyone. As much as we can think and we can embody, we can receive in our lives. And the fourth concept is that there is no evil as a reality. There's only love. And so in school, I looked at these things and we studied archetypes. And the archetypes of the gods in early days when they worshipped all the different gods, they would worship the god that would eat her young, and that would be the same God that would nurture her child. It's all different ends of one scale there. So we can see things that we might judge as evil. It's all God working to bring about something new, to birth something different in our lives. And are we willing to turn away from what we think might be bad, we're labeling as bad, to look to what we want to see, which is something that is good? Because when we do that, we are able to change our reality, to have that good in our lives. The book Love and Law, on page 25, Ernest says, in order to help yourself most effectively, you will have to learn to do it impersonally. There is nothing in my metaphysical work I make personal. The whole thing is set in mind. So Ernest would have people come to him, and he would not get into all the effects, all of the drama that they had. He would know their truth, and their truth being that they are divine creations. He goes on to say, if you do not learn to control your thought will control you. What you have to do is with thought, not with people. What you have to do is with thought, not with people. Don't we often live our lives with what people are saying right in front of us, with what people are doing, rather than controlling our thoughts, looking for the positive, looking for the good, enjoying life? Are you ready to take responsibility for your life? And that's what this philosophy is all about. It's controlling our minds, taking responsibility for ourselves. And if we don't like what we're thinking and what we're seeing in life, then we change our thinking. That's why he said, change your thinking, change your life. It does work. So one person who knew this philosophy, loved to demonstrate this, is Florence Scovel Shinn. And she wrote this little book called The Game of Life and How to Play It. I love this book. It's got lots of great wisdom in it, because Florence goes through and tells story after story about how different people came to her and what they were asking her to pray for. They knew that she was a powerful spiritual being, and so they come and say, Florence, pray for me. This is what's going on. So Florence says, a man came to me, dejected and miserable and poor. His wife was interested in the science of numbers. I'm not quite sure what that is, and she had him read. It seems that the report was not very favorable. My wife says, I'll never amount to anything because I am a 2. Florence looked at him and said, I don't care what your number is. You are a perfect idea in the divine mind, and we will demand the success and prosperity which are already planned for you by that infinite intelligence. Within a few weeks, he had a very fine position, and in a year or 2, he had achieved a brilliant success as a writer. Are we going to allow people outside of us to control our lives, believing in what they say? You're not going to amount to anything, you're a 2. Florence knew, as Ernest Holmes knew, we are all divine individuals. We are unlimited in what we can do. The only limitation is in our own minds. She has another story in here that I thought was very good. She tells about a woman who was married, and she said, the woman always said, well, I'm not really interested in marriage. She was married, but she kept saying, I'm not interested in marriage. So she came to Florence and said, my gosh. I guess I should back up and tell you, she was a real socialite. And so she was out in society, doing her society meetings and all the things that women did in society, and forgot that she even had a husband until she saw him. That's pretty bad. That's almost as bad as my wife when she forgot our anniversary. We were only married 6 years. It's like, how can you forget our anniversary? So this man showed up one day and told his wife that he was leaving her for another woman. And she went running to Florence and said, this is terrible. My husband's leaving me. He's leaving me for another woman. And Florence looked at her and said, well, you brought this on yourself. You said you weren't interested in marriage. The power of our word. Be careful what you say. The remedy that Florence gave her, she said, I told her then about a brotherhood in India who never said good morning to each other. They used these words, I salute the divinity in you. They saluted the divinity in every man and in every wild animal in the jungle, and they were never harmed, for they saw only God in every living thing. Can we see only God in every living thing? No matter what the people are doing, no matter what is happening around us, are we willing to look at that and see the divine in that? It's all God. I have a teacher that would say, Rick, you either believe it's all God or you don't. It's all God. It's all good. And I can look for that in life. Emanuel Swedenborg was one of the New Thought founders who began the Swedenborgian Church. And this is something he said. Before anything is brought back into order, it is quite normal for it to be brought first into a kind of confusion, a virtual chaos. Kind of sounds like today, right? In this way, things that fit together badly are severed from each other. And when they have been severed, then the Lord arranges them in order. We might think the world is in virtual chaos. But I want you to know that God is preparing something to happen. Something new is trying to emerge, to be birthed at this point in time. And so as we recognize that, we can be part of the calling forth of this new birth, of whatever is coming forth, the goodness that's there, if we stand for love in the world. If we know that love is there, regardless of how things look, then that's what we will find in our lives. I think you can flip that. Sorry. Conscious attention to love expands love. On page 27 of Love and Law, Ernest says, your final emancipation will be written by your own hand, or it will never be written at all. It will be thought out by your own mind. So that's telling us it's up to us. Our final emancipation, our freedom to see life as we want to see it, is done by our own hand, by our own mind, by ourselves. And we get to do that if it's going to be done. Or we can choose to not be enlightened, to stay in bondage of our minds. It's really up to our thinking what we're going to do, how we're going to live our lives. How much love are you willing to put into the world now? What the world needs now is love, sweet love. No, not just for some, but for everyone. Can you want for everyone what you want for yourself? That's the true heart. That's the true soul of love and of God living in us and through us. Ernest Holmes' teachings from 100 years ago are still relevant today. And when we learn that our minds create our lives, then the love at the center of our core, our divine self, will point the way for how we are to live each day. When we focus on love, we find that we can build bridges. Build a bridge among people. Build a bridge among countries. Build a bridge among cultures. And build a bridge among religions. It's up to us. Contemplate how much love are you willing to give into the world to build a bridge.